What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From the Bench. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and welcome to our Wednesday edition of the show, where we have a ton to talk about. We've got baseball, basketball, football, you name it. We've got news about it. But before we get into anything, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment about what you are expecting this weekend. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about basketball, but all eyes are on the prize this Saturday as we have a top 10 matchup at Thompson Bowling Arena against the Alabama Crimson Tide. So let me know your early thoughts and predictions on that. And like I said, make sure you guys are subscribed and follow to all of our socials. The handles are listed below. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with football, as most people like to hear about that. We don't have a lot to talk about, but I'm sure if you follow the program a good bit, you've seen that a starting DB, Rickey Gibson, has kind of out of nowhere entered the transfer portal. And in my opinion, I'm not going to go on a big rant about it because you guys have heard me talk about it a little bit before on this channel, but this just feels like classic NIL, transfer portal, money laundering. Not money laundering, that's not the right word. Been watching too much Breaking Bad, but just seems like somebody's trying to lure Rickey Gibson in with some money. Like, I'm sure he is entering this transfer portal and already knowing where he's headed. It sounds a little bit like tampering to me because I don't know what would make him leave like this. I mean, this guy's a starter, especially with Jermod McCoy going to be coming back from injury. Like, he started last year. He's going to start this year. We've already lost depth at the position. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Some Tennessee fans are like, oh, he got burnt a lot last year. It still hurts. I mean, he was a solid SEC cornerback, no doubt about it. So I'm not going to say too much about it. I'm sure Rickey Gibson has entered this transfer portal and already knows exactly where he's headed, which is kind of sad that that's kind of what the sport's turning into. But I'm sure somebody's tampered and said, hey, Rickey, if you come to here, we'll give you this amount of money. And I know that's more than what you're making over there in Knoxville. So who knows? Kind of, it sucks. There's nothing else to say about it. It really does suck, and I hope that there's still a chance that he comes back because, again, we're going to need him, especially with Jermod McCoy coming off of that surgery. So who knows? Who knows where he's going to go? I've heard some Alabama. I've heard a lot of different stuff. Again, it's all he say, she say. So who knows? Rickey Gibson has entered the transfer portal after spring practice. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but we'll see where he ends up, and hopefully it's back in Knoxville. So, on the bright side of things, the Vols are hot. They moved up to 5 in the AP poll. They're playing some great basketball. There's no doubt about it. They are coming off of a top 10 win in Aggieland against the Texas A&M Aggies, and Chaz Lanier, just give it up for the kid. Clap it up for him. You guys know how I feel about him. My outlook with this team, the number one thing that I've said about this team is I don't know, because I couldn't tell you what Tennessee team we're going to get night in and night out. But the thing that I keep telling myself is maybe Chaz Lanier can get hot for 6 games in a row. I don't care if they get knocked out early in the SEC tournament. They're going to be in the tournament in March Madness. I would just love to see a good Chaz Lanier for 6 games in a row, get hot in March Madness, and make a run at this thing. So that's what I keep telling myself. He lit it up in College Station and ended the game with 30 points, his season high. Had 22 of those 30 in the first half. Started off 5 of 5 from the three-point line, and he was electric. We started off slow. A&M started off the game on an 8-0 run with 4 dunks in a row. So their crowd got into it early. It was a noon game. So it was 11 out there. It was an early game, and their crowd got into it early. Their players felt energized, and Chaz Lanier was the guy who set the pace for our offense and really just our team in general. Our team played good on both sides of the ball. There for a while in the first half, that game was just shot making after shot making, which was not what, and the announcers were saying that, which was not what people expect when you hear Texas A&M versus Tennessee. So A&M drops 2 in a row last week. I think they're about 12 in the new AP poll, but it's a good win nonetheless. If there was ever a game that we needed Chaz Lanier to play like that, it was that game. Zakai Ziegler added on 16 points and 7 assists and hit the dagger for the game with 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Came out of a timeout, exploded off of Wade Taylor, and hit a clutch three to really seal that game. Jordan Gainey also adds 14 points. But last night, the Tennessee Vols went to Baton Rouge over there on the Bayou and got a good win, a gritty win against the LSU Tigers, who have not been very good in conference play this year or in general. But it was a gritty win. In my opinion, if you watch that game, it was not pretty at all. But it really looked to me like Tennessee was playing not to lose, not so much to win the game against LSU. Again, an inferior opponent, and like we've said, there's a lot on the line this Saturday, and probably in some people's mind, our biggest game of the year, especially with it being at home and later in the year. They looked a little sloppy at times. The guy who really kind of set the tone in this game was Felix Acapara. Has been, just want to talk about improvement throughout this year. You guys know, if you've been watching the show all basketball season, I was not a fan of Felix Acapara's game in the beginning of the year, and now he's one of my favorite players on the team. He's been very consistent for us. He's playing through a little injury, a little banged up right now, so still playing great. He finished the night with 15 points and 7 rebounds. He also added 3 shots blocked. And his timing, like in the beginning of the year, he's always been able to block shots. There's no doubt about it. We knew that when we got him from Ohio State. But he would get pinned underneath the rim. Like, he might have 3 blocked shots, but he was not a very good all-around defender. He's really gotten used to the physicality on the SEC level. Night in and night out, he's bringing it. And that game, that pick-and-roll game that he has with Zakai Ziegler has really been a staple in our offense. And the alley-oop was there all night against LSU. One-handed, two-handed, he was coming up with it and throwing it down. I think he had 3 alley-oops against LSU last night, and he also did miss a shot. He was 100% true shooting, 100% from the field, and 100% from the free throw line. So credit to him. Chaz Lanier ended the game with 14 points and 9 rebounds. He had like 8 rebounds in the first half. So you could tell LSU's main game plan was to keep the ball out of his hands, especially in that first half. Those guys were making it an emphasis to not let Chaz Lanier catch that ball, especially close to the three-point line. If he was getting it, it was really far out. Zakai Ziegler also added 17 points and 3 assists. So like I said, wasn't a pretty game, but the Vols got it done, and that's what you got to do in SEC play, because regardless of how good the team is, it's you guessed it, the gauntlet. Like I've said before, the SEC is just absolutely unreal. It doesn't show any mercy on anybody. As we just saw last night, Georgia beat Florida, so the number 3 ranked team in the country falls. And that game was absolutely bananas. I don't know if you guys got the chance to watch that, but Florida was down 26 in the first half, and they rally all the way back, go up 1 with 3 or so minutes left, and it really just looks like a game where, the better team did not play good, but they ended up being the better team in the end, and they just rallied. And that's what it looked like the case to be. Walter Clayton, their star guard, had struggled all game and found rhythm there late in the game. Hit 3 threes in a row for the Gators. And you think, Florida's just going to escape this one. But no, Blue Kane, the Knoxville native, went to Knoxville Catholic. Comes up right off the bench, hadn't played much in that second half, and nails a 3 to go up 2, and Georgia gets a stop, and they play a little hand tag and foul and shoot free throws, this, that, and the other, and Georgia comes away with the win. So unreal game right there. Like I said, it's any night is not it can be your night or it won't be your night in the SEC, and it's a gauntlet to say the least. Now, like I said, all eyes are set on the Alabama Crimson Tide, and if anybody was wondering after they lost 2 in a row last week if they'd respond, the answer is yes. They got a big win this past weekend against the Kentucky Wildcats, a banged-up Kentucky Wildcats at that, but still, nonetheless, an impressive win. But if you want to talk about impressive, last night, Alabama played Mississippi State, who is the 24th ranked team in the country, a very good basketball team, and it was a show. Alabama beat the tar out of them. It was 111 to 73. Mark Sears, the point guard over there for the Crimson Tide, added 21 points and 10 assists, so a double-double for him. And Chris Youngblood was playing well, Grant Nelson, everybody was playing well. It was just one of those nights for Alabama, and there's no doubt about it, Nate Oates is going to have that team ready to come to Knoxville. I think it's a 4 o'clock game. Dick Vitale's calling the game. He's back in Knoxville. Don't know how to feel about that. He's one of those guys, like, his voice is iconic, and it's a little bit of nostalgia, just like that's all I've heard growing up. But he's, not taken away from what the guy's accomplished. He means so much to the game of basketball, and his foundation with cancer, no doubt about it, he is a legend in the scheme, or in the what's the word I'm looking for, in the grand scheme of things, maybe in the scene. I could not get that out, in the scene of college basketball. So it'll be nice to have him back in Knoxville. But I don't know how to feel about it. I told you guys to leave a comment about how you feel about it. It's crazy. Like this, you want to talk about polar opposites. Alabama scores 85 and it's an off night for them. We would score 85 and think that the world's falling down because we just lit it up. Like I just said, they had 111 last night on Mississippi State, and they push the ball. They play offense like a bunch of raccoons with their head stuck in a trash can. Like, they are just pushing. They throw up as many threes as they can get. They cheat on defense. Like, it's a wild brand of basketball. It can win you games and it can lose you games, and Nate Oates has found a way, recruited the right guys to win games over there. And we are low, especially in Kim Palm. Like, we like to play slow basketball. We don't like to throw it up the floor. We take our time shooting the basketball. We have no problem with going late into the shot clock. Alabama likes to just throw that thing up there. So it'll be very interesting. It's polar opposites. I hope Vol Nation is loud and rocking, because, again, it's either the biggest game of the year. It's for sure the biggest home game of the year. So, like I said, I'm sure Vol Nation will be there, and having them hear about it, it's an orange out, so we'll see. We'll talk more about that on our Friday episode, a more in-depth look to the game. You guys know how I feel about teams that are guard-heavy. I love our matchup with them. So Mark Sears and Zakai Ziegler going at it. 2 undersized guards, veterans in the SEC, arguably the 2 best point guards in the SEC, and it'll be fun to see them go at it on the offensive end and the defensive end. But that is all we're going to talk about for basketball. And we're just going to add a little bit of baseball on here. It's the From the Bench debut, talking about a little bit of baseball. Not going to have a full in-depth thing right now because, obviously, I talked about football and we just talked a lot about basketball. But just wanted to highlight some things. The BaseVols are 8-0 right now. They look very, very good. They moved up to 3 in the AP poll, and they'll move up again because the number 1 team in the country, Texas A&M, lost last night to Texas State, 7-1 or 7-3 or something like that. So that's insane. I'm not gonna lie, I don't follow all of college baseball too much. I don't follow baseball in general unless it's my high school or Tennessee baseball. Excuse me. So I follow Tennessee baseball a large bit, but other teams, not so much until it gets to, the SEC tournament and Omaha and regionals and everything like that, super regionals. So seeing A&M go down like that, I don't know too much about them. I know we beat them in the national championship last year, but seeing them at number 1 and losing to Texas State, that's got to mean something. But Tony Vitello, in the second game of our 3-game series with Samford, he gets his 300th win, making him the fastest baseball coach in Tennessee history to get to 300 wins. So congrats to him. And really the bright spot from our series with Samford was Ole Miss lefty pitcher transfer Liam Doyle. And again, to people out there who don't pay attention to much baseball or don't know much baseball, he pitched a little over 5 innings against Samford and finished the game with 14 strikeouts. Now, you don't have to know baseball to know that that's absolutely unreal. Again, he's a lefty on the mound. The Ole Miss transfer was touching 99 against Samford, so he's easily making a case for himself to be one of the best pitchers in the nation, which we need because we know that our guys can hit it. At least we have the history of being able to just a game's never over with us. We can just put up points like no other, but having a pitcher like Liam Doyle this year is really going to help us in the long run and deep into the postseason. But the Vols have their first real test. They've beat Hofstra, UNC Asheville, Samford, but they have their first real test this Friday against the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who are 16th in the country. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's on ESPN too. Don't fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that because I hope to watch that game. Again, it's our first big test this year. I think it's in Houston. I think it's a neutral site. So we'll see. Should be a good game. Hope the BaseVols can get started early in ranked play against some more quality opponents, because we all know the SEC. Not going to say a gauntlet like I have for basketball. I have to find a new word, but I know the SEC in college baseball is absolutely ridiculous too. So I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of From the Bench. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment. And again, make sure you guys are followed to the socials that are listed below. Thank you guys for watching, and go Vols.